Hey, welcome to the Death of a Dream podcast. You're here. We're all here. I'm your host, Hanna Nuss. Let's go ahead and dive in with our great thing. My great thing, you know, really, and if you have been impacted in any way by this virus, which, like, if you haven't, congratulations. I don't know how that's possible. But if part of that impact has been staying home with yourself, with your children, for like longer periods of time than you've ever been used to, I think all of us are beginning to realize just how mad and crazy our houses get when we live in them. And so for me, that madness, we've been in quarantine since November 4th officially. And keeping my house afloat is a daily task. I vacuum every day, which is madness to me, which I am realizing I probably should anyways, but it's imperative. Like, I have to vacuum every day. I do, because we're actually living in our home day. We're doing things. We're here. We are living here. And so I think my great thing has just been like keeping everything together, keeping things clean, having the energy to do that every day, having the want to do that every day. And I don't know that I always have the want, but keeping consistent with like keeping it all put together, keeping the madness out. And so much of that really is possible because of the work that I did early on in the pandemic. We started minimalizing last November, December. And so that makes this portion so much easier. So we just have so much less to take care of in this moment. And it's a continued process. I just had to like, even though we are like masters of not taking on clutter, we still have to declutter because it happens whether you're paying attention to it or not. Clutter, overabundance of things just happen. And I feel like I'm really proactive. And it still happens. I had to clean off the top of my fridge. And I was just like, why is all of this stuff here? How is this even possible? Do we need this many lunch boxes? I don't know. I don't think we do. But I moved them over to the cupboard, and I'll have to make that decision a little bit later, once life really gets back to normal. Are we using lunch boxes? Are we sending lunches? Are we, like, what does life look like from here? I don't know. I don't know. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But really, my great thing has just been keeping the house settled, keeping things clean, and doing that every day, which is madness, but it definitely is a part of how I serve our household right now. Right now, my life has taken a major shift, right? Where I used to be this like big career woman who was outside the house every day, who really like championed and did things, and my house and my family kind of fell second to all of that. Now my main focus and drive has been my family for this past 6 months to a year. And while I'm still here building all of these things, the majority of the focus has been our family, and I feel very blessed to be able to be in that place, to be able to take time to focus on that. Eventually, the world will even back up, and I'll be able to go back into the world as the businesswoman that I see myself as, but this is where I'm being called right now, and this is necessary for our family to be successful and come out of this pandemic in a better way. And it was just necessary for our survival. Not everybody has that opportunity to be in the place to do what I did, but for our family, that's what we needed to do. For me to be able to settle and figure out what I even wanted, like it was just great timing for me to be able to sit in a lot more silence, to sit in a lot more time, to be able to commit to this, to be able to figure out what I even wanted to do with this and where I wanted to take it. And so that's where I'm at. And a lot of that has meant a lot more time managing my household, which is just the craziest thing. I never have vacuumed this much in my entire life, which may say a little bit about how much I enjoy vacuuming. But we're doing a lot of crafts. We are like on our wits' end. We are still in quarantine until December 3rd. So like if you have craft ideas, if you have, and we can't, we're limiting our trips outside of the home. So we aren't just like venturing out and loading up on stuff. Plus, like, who has money to do that? We're trying to prepare and pack up for the holidays. And so it's like, well, do they want Christmas presents or do they want to do crafts today? Like, there's no idea of life being normal, of Christmas being normal. And so it's like, how do you prep for the very, very, very unknown future? And there's no good way, by the way. No one has written a book on this because it's never happened. And so you just kind of limp along and do the best that you can. And that's where I'm at. Vacuuming, finding ways to do crafts out of whatever we have in our house, which oftentimes leads to bigger messes, and trying to keep 2 kids entertained for 30 days straight in the house. And a lot of people are experiencing this, so I am not alone, but trying to figure out how to do that. And it's been a challenge. And here we are anyways. So really, vacuuming, that's my great thing. Go ahead and take time for yourself. Recognize yourself for your great thing. I listened to a Facebook Live yesterday, and one of my close acquaintances, we definitely have gotten a lot closer over the past couple of weeks. We spoke at a same event, and she had said, a practice of gratitude, your first practice should really be in loving yourself. And I think, the greatness really is just a practice of gratitude for yourself, of recognizing yourself and how great you are, whatever that looks like, right? Whether that's vacuuming or doing jumping jacks or, winning a Nobel Peace Prize. As long as you are speaking to it and calling love to yourself, that helps expand that practice. So let's go ahead and get all the way in here. I titled this one, Let's Get Rid of Good and Bad. Mainly as I'm doing a lot more diet relief, and I think this is a very common one, so I'm going to kind of ground it here, but I want to massively apply this to everything, because more than anything, this pandemic has taught me to just give grace. And yesterday, my daughter, my 4-year-old, was FaceTiming with her closest friend, and her mom and I were kind of in the background, not happily accepted in the background by my 4-year-old, by the way. But her mom was like, "How's your mom doing?" And I'm like, it's been loud. It's been really loud. And I struggle with overconsumption of all things. So it's really hard for me to not have silence, to not be able to disappear at some point. And I haven't, right? We've been here together. 4-year-old, 7-year-old, me. That's it. and my husband, but for the majority of the day, it's just been us. And that can be super tricky to navigate. But I had told her, like, eventually I just gave myself grace. And like last week, finally, because my 7-year-old was in quarantine. And so it was just me and my 4-year-old. And so last week, finally, like I just introduced the iPad and the headphones. And that's something, if you've ever listened to me talk, that definitely is something that we have by and large avoided as parents, like the overuse of technology. And I think this is where I sit today. There's no good or bad. Like her using technology, her using the iPad, me needing that silence, just quiet, period, to do my work, to invest in myself, to read a book, to like just have any semblance of sanity. Like it was necessary at that point. And for me, I do a really great job of like villainizing certain things. And I did this a lot with food, and I think a lot of us do that with food because that very much is the culture. We live in a villainized food culture. And for me, I villainize a lot of things that I deem bad. And as I've been walking down this anti-diet culture path, it helped me to realize that there is no good or bad in anything, not just food, right? But the food was kind of the very tangible thing that I could put this into play. And my niece had asked me the other day, like, oh, that's a good food. And here's the thing. And I just read this chapter in Anti-Diet. There is no good or bad food, period. And so that can go with anything. There is no good or bad anything. I know. Am I shaking you? And you're probably going, well, Hannah, drugs are bad. Are they? Right? Yeah. Overconsumption makes it bad. But there are certain uses of those things that definitely is helpful. You know, people use drugs to escape their reality, which that's not a great coping mechanism, but does it provide some relief? Yeah. And then it just becomes the overconsumption of that. So like anything, if you overconsume carrots, eventually they become bad, right? They're not something that I would deem a bad food if we were using that in the constructs of how we structure and talk about foods, right? I'd never call carrots bad. They're good. It's all about overconsumption, right? That's where we cross over. And even with that, like, is there an official cutoff? Like, this world just isn't really developed enough, isn't really known enough and sure enough to be able to say, here's the line. If you cross it, you're out. You can never come back. Right? And so I want to get rid of today, for everyone, I want to get rid of good and bad. I want to get rid of it for myself. I want to go ahead and give myself that gift for the rest of my life. Because I had lived in this world where it was just super black and white. This was good. This was bad. And I feel like, one, that held me back from experiencing things that could have really served me or helped me learn and grow. I had labeled so many things bad and avoided them completely that I maybe missed out a little bit, right? And nobody wants that. Nobody should miss out. You should be able to try things and decide if they're for you or not. Not whether or not they're good or bad. Decide what's for you, because some things may be for you. I've been trying to heal my relationship with cannabis. Not that I don't know. I don't know, because I'm trying to heal myself from this idea that it's bad. Right? Because my thoughts on cannabis and cannabis use is just like smoky, clouded up rooms where everybody's high and eating Cheetos. Like, That's the only view that I have, and I put that category into bad, and there's so much good that can come from cannabis use, right? And there are so many different ways that people are utilizing it. I met with a cannabis farmer in Iowa, and I think hemp, and she's using it in a lot of different ways. And I'm actually going to interview her for a podcast, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But there are so many different uses of it. There's so many different ways that it's actually better than pharmacy, right? Than a lot of the drugs that we're putting into our body to cope with a lot of the things that we're coping with. And, like, it is used medicinally. It is an amazing healer. And I think when we put it into the realm of smoky rooms and drug dealers and drugs and bad, right, we limit our ability to maybe utilize that as something later in life. I follow this person very closely, and her mother had gone through this experience with cancer, and she had to process her emotions towards cannabis in that moment because it was necessary for her mom to be able to gain weight and eat and do things. And they saw such a shift when she started using medicinal marijuana. And, I think for her, it was about accepting it as good, right? Releasing that hold that we all have in this world where there are good and bad, because there isn't. Everything serves a purpose. Even the things that I would label as bad, right? They still serve a purpose. Sometimes, even the worst things can be used to serve us, right? And so I don't want us to get caught up there, right? Even with food, like foods that I have labeled as bad forever, a lot of times mentally give me this release, give me this way of regrounding myself in comfort foods, in home, in just the release of help. And for me, it's let's just not overstep that bounds, or let's overstep that bounds. Is your body calling for it? Do you need it? Do you want it? Right? And once you begin to heal, once you begin to let go of that good and bad, and JC and I talked about this last week, I'm amazed at how you recover, how your body and mind really heal, and all of a sudden you aren't reacting in a scarcity model. You will for the first couple of months, okay? I'm going to promise you that. And then eventually your body kind of evens out and it realizes, oh, we're going to keep doing this. We're going to just keep eating. Okay, cool. We haven't done that in forever. I forgot what this felt like to feel nourished and fed at all times. Wow. Welcome, right? Sorry, that may not be your struggle, but that absolutely was mine. And so really it was just relieving this pressure of this idea that there was good and bad, right? Like a burger, and this was the example used in the book. Would you deem a burger versus an apple, which one would you deem good? Neither, right? Neither. And I like to talk to my kids about this. There aren't good and bad foods. Foods just serve different purposes. Whereas, if we want quick fuel, where I used to not keep granola bars in my fridge. You don't keep them in the fridge. That'd be weird. I used to not have granola bars in my cabinet because I don't know, high fructose corn syrup, chocolate chips, processed, I don't know, right? But Mentally, what did I have to grab and go? Nothing. So I would rather starve. I would rather see my kids starve and then come home and like binge and binge and binge on the good food that I was making them. Because they should only have the good, the teamed good food. Well, it's not good at that point because we're over consuming it and we're binging, and we have forced our bodies into this starvation mode where all of a sudden we're actually holding on to more of the food because our bodies are like, whoa, sister, you starved me. I'm scared. What if we do this again? I better hold on and keep reserves, right? And I don't know. I'm going to look into more research on scarcity. And is that where all, like, how does that play into everything? I don't know. I want to know more about that. JC hit on that when I interviewed her last week, but I kind of want to know more about scarcity because I think while I am thin body privileged, you can see that if you've ever seen me on a video or in a photo. While I am, that doesn't mean that I'm exempt from, these drastic body issues, eating issues. So that's just it. There's no good or bad in anything. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a meaning, a value, right? And I want you to not just pose value in the normal sense. So, like, does it provide mental relief? Does it provide healing? Does it provide just like that moment? Does it make you feel better? Right? And I know we've gone off the deep end a little bit. Hannah, are you saying go crazy and do drugs and drink and do that all the time? No, I'm actually saying the exact opposite. I think really when we structure things as good and bad, that almost becomes like a forbidden fruit scenario, right? Where we're like, ooh, that's bad. Ooh, I shouldn't do that. And once again, we move into this scarcity model where we tend to overconsume. So if we're like, ooh, I'm not allowed to drink, can't drink anymore, I've gone crazy, right? I don't want to drink anymore. That's fine. Right? You can make that choice, but when we villainize it, it all of a sudden becomes this like Adam and Eve moment where we're like, oh no, don't eat the apple, but like eat the apple because I'm telling you, right? And I don't want us to work in that way. I want us to work wholly and plainly and make decisions not based on whether things are good or bad, based on whether that's going to serve us or not. Right? In whatever that intention is. What's the intention? Why do I want to eat that burger? 1, I'm hungry. 2, I want a burger. 3, I love burgers. They remind me of when I was a kid. And right now I just kind of want to like be comforted by food because everything's so crazy and nothing really is settling down. And I need that help right now. Right? Or maybe it's like, do I want and need to go try this new thing? I don't know, jumping on a trampoline. Do I want and need to do that? Now, if we live in the good and bad world, there are all kinds of cool things that are good about jumping on a trampoline, right? And this is a super silly reference point. But there are good things, right? Endorphin release. I don't know, just like pure joy of jumping for no real reason. That's an amazing thing. This is a concept that I have struggled with. Like, why are we doing something? Why would we just aimlessly jump on a trampoline? Why would we do that? Because we just want to. So, in the good and the bad world, good. We might enjoy it. Good, we're going to release endorphins. Good, we might laugh. That's going to release more endorphins. Good, we might just enjoy it. Here's the bad. Bad, we could break any bone in our body doing this. Bad, we'll probably be sore tomorrow. Bad, trampolines are dangerous. We could get a head injury. We could break the trampoline. Yikes. What's that going to do to us? Right? And so when we're weighing that, I want us to just let those things go. Let the good and bad go. Let the risk analysis of whether this will be a good experience or a bad experience, because neutral. Do we want to do it? Yes. No. Go. Or don't go. But bottom line, let's stop working everything into these funnels, because I'm sort of in this place where I just want things that serve me and align with me. There really is nothing that I could knowingly deem good or bad, right? And some things we're deeming based off of experiences we've never had ourselves. So it's really even harder to put them into those boxes, right? A lot of the things that we deem good and bad are based off of other people's experiences, right? Whether we've read a story, whether we've heard a story, whether an ancestor, that made it sound really, really old and outdated. Whether an aunt or an uncle or a mom or a dad or a sister or a brother had that experience, then we just go, oh, okay. We forever avoided parking overnight in a airport. Nope, you can't do it. It's expensive. I don't even know who told me that. Who told us that? Anyways, so one of our trips, we had to. We didn't have a choice. And it was the same as what we were paying to park somewhere else. It really wasn't all that crazy. And it was so much more convenient that even if it was $2 more a day, dude, that was just easier. And so now, we might just park at an airport overnight if we don't have another option. If that's the only option, if that's the best option. But we had just put it in that boat of bad based on just hearsay that we never even looked into it. What I want us to do in releasing the good and bad is really allow us to explore all of the options, right? What are the options for relief? What are the options for, as far as mental health goes, there are a lot of options. There's the pharmacy option, right? There's the look at your experiences option. What is your body and mind trying to tell you? There's, less traditional options as far as the use of CBD, the use of how do you treat your stress and your anxiety? There are just so many ways to deal with those things. And I think for all of us, we have to start to look into all of the options. For such a long time, we've just been told that there are these different buckets. This is bad. This is good. Do the good. And I think one of the best ways to get through that is to eliminate that weight process. There is no good and bad. There are just all of these needs that you have as a whole human being, right? And sometimes the weight of the mental need is going to outweigh the physical need at that point, is going to outweigh, just all the needs that you have as a whole human being. And so I want us to go ahead and break down this idea that it's just easily broken down into these two options. I want us to release this idea that there is good and bad anything, right? And start to allow ourselves to freely explore and express what our options are and what's going to best serve us. Yes, that may mean that you're experimenting with new options, with different ideas, but for goodness sakes, they are there for a reason, right? Start looking at them. Break down these walls of good and bad and start exploring what serves you, what makes sense for you. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.